Great. Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you, Karen, as well. And always thank you to all of our practice leaders for stepping in and helping out so much. It's really wonderful to be with everyone today. And welcome to those of you who are new to our practice. This is indeed the practice of Medicine Buddha, but with a little bit of innovation, a little twist. You know? Um, And so as Eric said, just like sit back, enjoy yourself, if one can enjoy oneself, in intensive practice. And today it will be kind of intense as well. So you might as well want to buckle down a little bit. Um, so Today is World AIDS Day. Some of you may know that. And many of us have been deeply impacted by the epidemic. I've lost family members to AIDS, and many of you have, and I know many of you have been activists and organizers in the area as well. But December 1st, World AIDS Day is always a day that I commemorate. It just happens to fall on Monday this year. And so I just wanted to share some practice with you. Um, and the practice that I want to share with you is really it's bits and pieces from different practices. It's bits and pieces from the practices that we've done here in our sessions in Medicine Buddha. Um, but these are practices that really do actually do something. It may just be like imaginary stuff for you. But when we put all these elements together, right, it becomes a kind of work that has a really intense impact for beings, well, for yourself, but an intense impact for the beings that we're offering this practice to. So we'll set it up kind of carefully, as well. And I've talked about kind of my relationship to these kinds of practices, and particularly kind of spirit realm based practices before. I talk about them in the books. I talk about them in many of the spaces that I teach in, but my relationship to people who um, really transitioned from HIV AIDS related illness is a particular close group of spirits that I work with, um, and feel very connected to and very tethered to, right? Um, so much so that um, a lot of the choices that I make, are really held in discernment with this kind of class, this group of beings, spirits, you know. Um, the AIDS epidemic, like many epidemics, like war, like genocides, holocausts, slavery, and so forth, when people transition or die from the impact of these things, it creates a particular kind of karmic imprint. And that karmic imprint, which we can call trauma, right? So that trauma facilitates or creates a particular kind of reality for a lot of beings after they transition, right? And so the suffering that people may have experienced um, from the impact um, of these things um, creates often a very similar reality, even in spirit form. Mhm. So anyway, let me break that down and just say very directly, plainly. Often when we die and we don't know how to practice with the impact of that death, right? When I say practice with, I mean we don't know how to let go. right? We don't know how to move that trauma, that impact through. It stays with us and creates a world, a reality for us, even after death in the spirit world or in the bardo, right? And so if someone dies, well, in this case, so if someone transitioned from AIDS-related illnesses in a way that felt really hard, right? And if they don't know how to deal with that, then they create a very similar reality, or a similar reality is created where they continue to experience the impact of that death over and over and over again until that cycle is disrupted. This is trauma, right? So trauma in the spirit world is just the creation of a reality where suffering continues until that suffering and that energy is released or disrupted. A lot of beings don't have the capacity to disrupt that narrative, that cycle for themselves. So they depend on, other spirits, but mostly they depend on living beings like us to kind of offer practices to kind of disrupt those karmic cycles, those trauma patterns, those realities that they're still suffering in, right? And so this is the basis of this practice is to call in, right, the practice, and of course, the blessings of Medicine Buddha to create, to help us create this kind of pulse of energy that we begin to radiate out into the spirit world to start releasing beings from these cycles, from this trauma or this reality, right? Um, and this is something that I learned to do based on the needs of the spirits that were coming to me, right? So advanced expressions of this work do actually look like time travel, right? It's going back to the moment where these experiences, memories, trauma can be really efficiently, effectively disrupted, right? Um, we won't necessarily be doing that. And this practice is more of an advanced practice that takes a little bit of a different space to focus on. Um, but for our purposes, we're just opening to energy and letting that energy flow. But that energy is going to start with our heartbreak, right? It's going to start with our heartbreak. It's going to continue with a deep mm, imagining of ourselves as medicine Buddha, which is typical in tantric Buddhism. We take on the form of the deity, we fake it right till we make it, right? So we take on the drag of the deity. Taking on the drag of the deity is extremely important because it is a form of protection. So at no point are you saying, I am doing this work, but what we're going to be doing is saying, medicine Buddha, ourselves as medicine Buddha, right, is offering this work for beings who are still stuck in the spirit world, right? It's some of you can do this, very few of you can in this space. But it is possible just to say, I am doing this, but that takes a level of fierceness and audacity, right? That takes time to develop. Right. But that's also very tantric as well. A lot of tantric practice is just fierceness, audacity, courage, right? Deeply held by love, right? This is tantric Buddhism, right? Um, but for our safety, right, you will be functioning as medicine Buddha. Medicine Buddha is going to be doing this work. You won't be doing the work. I know that feels like a very narrow distinction, but it's actually a very important distinction, right? When we decenter I, we open up space, right, for much more to happen, right? So when we take on medicine Buddha, right? When we become medicine Buddha, we're becoming space, right? We're becoming emptiness because that is the very nature of the Buddhas, right? And it's our nature as well, but we don't get that. So this is why we take on the drag of the deities, right? To start pretending, to start getting a felt sense of what it's like to arise from emptiness, from space itself, right? It is very faint, right? It's very marginal, absolutely, right? But it's still, even taking on the deity in this way is profound healing for us, right? And again, this is all basic tantric Buddhism, right? When we decenter the sense of ego, healing starts to happen, right? And so this is a practice that you can do for any group of beings, right? For those of you who descend from the trauma of the Holocaust, right? This is a practice you can do for beings who are still reliving the Holocaust. And I've done that work as well, right? I work with a lot of like particularly mostly like Jewish people, but also queer trans spirits who are still stuck in the cycle of the violence of the Holocaust, you know. But you can do it for indigenous ancestors, for your enslaved ancestors. I mean, for anyone really. Like this is an open kind of practice for all the spirits, but you have to follow like the setup for the practice, which I always do for intensive practice. And many of you are familiar with that, you know, the process of setting up practice, so we can be pretty well protected. The basis of the practice is not only just medicine Buddha, but it's also the seven homecomings, which, you know, I will give as or instruct as calling in all of your benefactors. So all the beings who love you, who want you to be free. Um, And if you're new to, well, if you're new in general to all of this, don't worry. It sounds complicated, but just do what you can, right? You know, the intention is really the most important thing, right? Your intention to help, to be of benefit. That's the point of this. The opening, the arousal of bodhicitta or awakened care, as I call it in my work, right? The opening of the heart and mind for the benefit of all beings. Like that's the point, the empathy, the care, the compassion, the love, right? Right. So that's what we're working with, right? Um, yeah. And again, you know, any group of beings that you want to work with, you can work with them. You know, I'll be working with, you know, with the folks, spirits who transitioned from the AIDS epidemic. And one particular thing about this work, particularly with people who died from AIDS-related illness, right? And particularly at the height and the well, really the beginning of the epidemic, you know, in different parts of the world, right? A lot of people, you know, mostly men, but there was a lot of women and children, so forth, right? Across the gender spectrum, right? But I draw a lot of men, you know, like in the spirit world and in my regular life, right? I draw a lot of men. You know, you get why that happens, you know. But I draw a lot of male spirits who died in the AIDS epidemic. So that's like my like target, you know, demographic in this in terms of like is one of my demographics in the spirit world. A lot of demographics that tend to find out their ways to me. But so I have this large kind of community of, you know, gay, queer men who died from AIDS-related illness, right? That I've been working with for many years. And have been moving them through like healing work. Because, when we do, anytime I teach, right, spirits show up because spirits are still trying to get free as well, right? So it's not just you, it's not just your ancestors, it's like a whole bunch of spirits from across the universe gather, right, to hear the teachings and continue practicing, right? Um, but what I wanted to kind of point out before we begin practicing about this group, right, is that a lot of them died alone, right, and disconnected from family, from a lot from friends, right? So a lot of the men that I work with in the spirit world died alone and afraid. And so that's the energy that I've learned to tend to is loneliness and fear, which feels very dark. It can feel very heavy. It can feel extremely isolating, right? But to go into that energy to what I call accompany spirits, and that energy means that you begin to show up in those moments where they felt most alone and you start helping them to rewrite that narrative. The rewriting of that narrative, because you show up and you're holding space, begins to release them from that loneliness, from that terror, right? And that's the healing, you know. Um, and again, you can for any community that you feel close to, this is a really beautiful offering, right? Um, So you can do that. Like if there's a community of people, of beings that you feel particularly close to, particularly if it's historical trauma that you're connected to, absolutely that creates an even stronger healing when you have this kind of karmic connection to the trauma itself. And when that trauma is a part of you. The trauma of the AIDS epidemic lives in me on purpose. Right, because it is a way that I can attune, right, to the experiences of beings, right, who lived through that or who died through that, right? Um, but this is, and again, this can be heavy work, this can be really intensive work, right? And so this is why you have to follow the steps that I'm offering, which are just steps I often offer, so this isn't anything new if you've been with me for a bit. Um, they can be for individual spirits as well, right? Um, it's so like, I mean, I can't, I'm not going to talk more because I'll just start talking and talking. There won't be room and time for practice. But this is so, for me, like extremely interesting. Like, this is so important for me personally. And I spend a lot of time um, like moving through the spirit world, right? Um, but I'm I'm a what some cultures would call a spirit walker, right? So that's more than just having the capacity to move in and out of the spirit world. It's actually a spirit walker, is someone who's always one foot in the spirit world, right? And some of you are that. Like you're living both the material world and the spirit world together, right? So some of you complain often about how spirits are bothering you, but that's actually wrong. You're bothering them. It's like you're walking through their living room. I mean, that's a metaphorical, not like your actual living room, but like what I'm saying is that like you're walking through the spirit world while you're thinking you're walking through the material world, the physical world. You're doing both at the same time. So no one's coming to bother you. You're actually moving into spirit space automatically all the time. Right. So just to be aware of that is important, right? It may solve some issues for some of you just to even reflect on that, right? Um, yeah. So for me, it's just like I'm always interacting with spirits, always. Talking to spirits, fussing with spirits, ignoring spirits, you name it. If I do it to a human, I'm going to do it to a spirit. It's like, they're not special. You know? It's like we're all beings trying to get home back to our awakened state. That's all it is, right? So I think that's helpful. I think that's all I kind of want to kind of put out there. So I do want to get into practice. We're going to try to do everything tonight as we usually do on top of that. Um, yeah. And this is like this kind of stuff too. I mean, this is, I don't know, shamanic work. I don't know. It's just things that I do, and just like I find myself in situations and I just like learn how to do something on the spot and it just becomes what I do. So it's not like I have like any kind of books or anything to back it up. I do read a lot of like shamanic work and everything, but sometimes things just kind of happen. There are just practices that happen. Like, sitting down with Medicine Buddha every week, it's just a practice just pops out. Like I don't read, I don't study, I don't think about it. It just happens, right? That's my particular ability, right? Is to create um ritual ceremony as a ceremony leader just to do it on the spot. As my mother would always say and still does, as a minister, she would always say, you always have to be prepared. You always have to be ready. You never know when you're going to be called upon to pray, to lay hands, to anoint, whatever it may be. And so I really take that seriously. Like just be prepared, as Mother Sharon used to always say, if you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Or if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Right? And that's my motto. Like I just stay ready, be it in the dream world, be it in the spirit world, be it in the waking, your physical world, you just stay ready. The readiness is the mindfulness, right? It's the awareness itself. Like you're just paying attention. That's all the readiness is. And when you're paying attention, you're ready to respond in a second. Right. And this is again, this goes back to Tara, as you see behind me. I know you only see half the pictures here, these tankas of Tara, right? And you see how like her right foot, right? You see her right foot here is always extended, like ready to jump off the cushion, to jump off the lotus, which is what she's sitting on, the lotus seats. In a second, she's ready to respond. It's not a reaction, it's a response. She knows what she's doing. And everything that she's doing is deeply held in care, right? And so this is how we kind of move through the life as, I don't know, practitioners. Like we stay prepared, we stay ready, we stay aware, right? We watch, fight, and pray, right? The watching is the big part of it. It's the root of it, to watch, to be aware, to know, to pay attention, right? And to always be aware means that there's always a choice, right? And sometimes you don't even know what that choice is, you just make it, which is also really exciting. I know that scares the shit out of some of you, but like I just find that to be exciting. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that I'm going to respond, and that response is going to be held by practice, right? So when I say if you don't give up on your practice, the practice doesn't give up on you. This is what that looks like. When I open my mouth, I know that the Dharma will be present, even though I have no idea what I'm going to say or what's going to come out. I trust 100% that what comes out is the expression of Dharma, right? And that takes letting go of a lot of fear, right? And that takes a lot of confidence in your practice. Confidence in your practice only happens when you practice, friends, right? There can't be a confidence in practice if you're not practicing. right? I think this is why some of us are really frustrated because we don't have consistent practices, and I will not be, defining what consistence is, right? You have to figure that out on your own, right? Um, but Dharma is just presence, right? Because I've never, well, that's a lie. I have given up on Dharma in the past, but like at this point in my practice, like Dharma isn't something that I give up on because Dharma is what I am, right? So everything, Dharma is incorporated into everything, right? So anyway, I've said too much. So we're gonna have to get to practice, right? So everyone get settled. Go ahead and get settled. Wherever that may look like for you, however you wish to honor your body and your body's needs, please do so. Um, and I want to begin just by lighting my ceremonial candle, which is right here. And for really intensive work, we always light the candle. The candle begins, or the light and the fire element begins to draw in a lot of positive energy, a lot of like supporting, helping spirits and beings into the space. And of course, the light represents clarity, right? It represents the nature of our mind. So ultimately, there's no such thing as danger when everything is an expression of the light, the illumination of our minds. And so we take refuge first in this naturally awakened clarity of the mind, the wisdom of the mind itself, felt, imagined, or experienced as light, as illumination, and feeling that illumination really beginning to take root or to begin to really awaken in both, not just your mind, but also in your body. So imagining that your body begins to illuminate with this clarity, this brilliance. And even the things that we're struggling with, our brokenheartedness, our anger, our fear, the loneliness, even those experiences are expressions of this very same luminosity, brilliance. And before we even continue, and before we even really formally call the spirits to us that we'll be working with, we can reflect on some of their experiences because so much of their experience is our experience, right? The fear, the loneliness, the rage, the isolation, the pain, the hopelessness, even the despair, all of that. These are universal experiences that we all share at some point in our lives. And so even those experiences, those energies are the expression of the same clarity, the same luminosity. The world seems dark, but is actually full of light. This is the offering that we begin to bring, right? This this reflection, this imagining of luminosity, even in what seems really dark and heavy. Right? So your brokenheartedness, which for me is the composite experience of suffering, of disappointment, is actually an expression of real light, clarity. And this luminosity, this light, is the essence of all phenomena. So we begin to imagine that even all the space around us, our things, our rooms, our furniture, everything, the air itself, everything begins to radiate with this luminosity, this light. And this luminosity becomes so strong that even the phenomena itself begins to dissolve into this luminosity. So it's as if we are sitting in a realm of light because everything has dissolved back into its primary essence. And even our bodies begin to dissolve in this luminosity. And our awareness is just energy, this brilliant luminosity that knows, that is aware. But from this luminosity, we even begin to think about Medicine Buddha. We turn our attention to the first, this welcoming mantra of Medicine Buddha, Om Minla Sangye Kino Soha. Medicine Buddha, I pray that you know and look upon me. And this is the mantra where we are beginning to shape this luminosity into the form of the great healer, of Minla Sangye, the Medicine Buddha. And we begin by chanting Om, and then chanting the mantra 3 times, and then ending with chanting Om. And as we chant, we begin to imagine, and not being, terribly like directing of this, but just letting whatever naturally happens happen, right? Letting yourself take the form of the expression of Medicine Buddha that feels appropriate for you right now. It could be the actual iconic form of Medicine Buddha that you can see on the prayer dock if you need a visual support, or any form that expresses Medicine Buddha, right? So we'll begin. Om. no so Om Lazange Ki no So Om Lazange Ki no So And just like that, we have re-arisen as the great healer. And as we continue, we are this healer. We are this expression of Medicine Buddha. So when we think I am, you're completing that by saying I am Medicine Buddha. I am the great healer. I am this arising of space and emptiness and luminosity, this energy. I am the expression of clarity, of love, compassion, of emptiness itself. As the great healer, I arise from emptiness itself. In this practice, there is nothing greater than this arising as Medicine Buddha from emptiness. So taking just a moment to really situate yourself as the great healer, as Medicine Buddha. And when you're ready, in our minds, we turn our attention to the space around us. And as Medicine Buddha, we begin to call to all of the assisting medicinal medicine Buddhas or spirits in the universe. All the spirits who accompany Medicine Buddha in whatever form Medicine Buddha takes. This retinue, this ensemble, we gather them and we say welcome to all the medicinal spirits who support Medicine Buddha. I call to you. Please hear this call and please come to hold and protect the space around me. And as you say that, you're beginning to imagine that the space around you, just like we do in the Seven Homecomings practice, begins to be filled with all of these healing medicine spirits from across the universe, from across timelines and dimensions. The medicinal spirits from our lineages and ancestries from this world and beyond. We call the entire retinue of Medicine Buddha to assist us in the pouring of this medicine for all the beings who need it. And so feeling the strength of this barrier of medicine spirits, feeling your own rootedness, groundedness as medicine Buddha. And even as medicine Buddha, there can still be these experiences of brokenheartedness, sadness. So just noticing that, even as medicine Buddha, just noticing this expression of brokenheartedness, sadness, grief. Letting this grief, this brokenheartedness radiate into the space around you, and feeling the medicine spirits beginning to heal, tend to this brokenheartedness. And releasing this brokenheartedness helps us to get to the essence of the brokenheartedness, to the luminosity of the suffering itself. And as the medicinal medicine spirits are tending to this energy of brokenheartedness, the brokenheartedness itself begins to transform into this light, but this light is the medicine, the blessings that we will soon begin to offer to the spirits that we will soon call into the space on the other side of this ring or wall of medicine spirits. And so when you're ready, I invite you to call into the space the beings that you're choosing to work with. Be it beings who died from AIDS-related causes and illnesses, or other beings from other points of historical trauma, from other genocides, slavery, Holocaust, and so forth. And we begin to call these spirits, and we call these spirits just through our hearts, through the longing, through the aching, through the needing and wanting all beings to be free. And so we call the spirits to gather around us outside of the sacred circle with our medicinal deities and spirits. Imagining them gathering, coming from the realms of suffering and pain that they've been trapped in. Summoning these spirits from reliving their death and the violence that caused their death. feeling them gather around you, around the circle, coming from all these timelines, these dimensions. And as the great healer, as you gaze out upon this, you begin to feel your heart break even more. This breaking is the opening, the deepening of bodhicitta, awakened care, that you need, you want all these beings to be free from suffering. And so as your heart opens, we imagine that all this energy, this light, begins to spill out of our form as Medicine Buddha. And this energy is first held by the circle of medicine spirits around us, our retinue. And we imagine that they add their own deep care to this outpouring. And slowly we imagine that the medicinal spirits begin to release this energy, this light, into the experiences of all the spirits that have gathered for healing. As if a flood of light and waves of light began to move through the numberless masses of spirits needing to get free and healed. And as this is being imagined, we turn our attention to the main mantra. Teata Om Begenze Maha Begenze Rasa Sumu Gate Soha. Like this, I pray for the end of pain and suffering and the root of pain and suffering. And I release the energy of this prayer out to all the world so that we may all be liberated. So as we chant Medicine Buddha's primary mantra, we are releasing the energy, the pure, profound bodhicitta of Medicine Buddha and all of the accompanying entourage, releasing that out into the experiences of all these spirits who have been trapped in cycles of trauma. And through this practice, through the mantra, we begin to free them from these cycles of trauma. We begin. O te anta begenze Begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soha. Te anda begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soha. Te anda begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soha. Te zumugarezoa. Seyandaum begenze, begenze, ha begenze, raza zumugarezoa. Seyandaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza zumugarezoa. Seyandaum begenze, So we begin to just lift up the prayers. As we offer these prayers are just like light energy, like that get lifted up, right? These prayers are just emptiness offered back into emptiness. But the offering of the prayers begins to shape the emptiness into narratives, into what we most need to see for ourselves and for all others. And so we call the attention of all the great Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors, the benevolent spirits and the ancestors, for all the spirits, all the beings in this universe, right, who are about liberation, freedom, love. We call your attention and we offer these prayers to you. And we ask you to work on our behalf to bring about the fruition of these prayers. And at the same time, show us how to bring about the fruition of these prayers as well through our own practice and effort and labor. And we're offering prayers for protecting and providing mental clarity and fortitude for my son Mateo and me, Herschel, as we navigate difficult life challenges, escaping domestic violence and child abuse. Please send us loving kindness and prayers for peace, happiness, and safety. I pray we are all well protected and feel the support from within and by our ancestors. Offering prayers for our family of origin to be free from delusions or for them to find a connection to their real soul existence and divine purpose, sending them all loving kindness. Prayers for our elected officials to be free from delusions and for them to find a connection to their real soul existence and divine purpose, sending them all loving kindness. Prayers for a new job that is aligned with Harshal's soul's work and meets her and her family's financial needs. Offering prayers for the Congo, of Haiti, Sudan, Palestine, for all murdered and missing indigenous peoples. May this practice uplift and honor all lives of people resisting oppression and living in truth for justice. Prayers for R, who ran over a child this weekend and is facing some legal follow-up, and prayers for the child's family. The child sustained minor injuries. No major injuries. Prayers for my loved one M and J undergoing surgery. May they, their care team, their surgery team, and the entire hospital staff and family and friends find rest and clarity with supporting and healing procedure. Prayers that I am able to use my talents and skills in a career that I enjoy in order to benefit all beings. Prayers for my recovery from kidney transplant and my recovery from heart failure, heartbreak, and that I may learn how to take care of this new kidney. Prayers for all caregivers that they may find strength, support, spaciousness through the sacrifice, challenges, ups and downs. Prayers for all those on dialysis that they may receive that dignified and attentive care they need and deserve in the clinic, in the home, and wherever they may be. Prayers for Leah that she may find a place to live that is safe and warm, a place where she can grow and heal. May she encounter people and institutions that are compassionate and supportive. Prayers that I am selected for the job I am a finalist for, and a joyful and easeful transition into a year of growth and expansion. Prayers for my brother to experience peace, healing, and shelter. Prayers for Monty's wound to heal. Prayers for Harper that she may heal from the traumas that she has seen, witnessed, or experienced, and that her teenage years and those beyond are free from abuse. Offering prayers for my family that we may lay down traumas and overwhelm, that overwhelmed us are coping mechanisms that no longer serve us, and that we may learn how to support each other, and that we may learn healthy ways of processing our collective grief. Prayers for those individuals and lineages carrying wounds from the many violences of enslavement. Prayers for J and C, may their ribs heal well and may they experience less pain. Prayers for my mom, may she find ease in the care facility that is now her home. Prayers that the grief of my husband's transition won't be overwhelming on his upcoming birthday. Prayers for my partner that he does not have to live with the trauma of his illness and his new place of being. Prayers for me and others feeling lost and overwhelmed. Prayers for me and my possessions to recover swiftly and from smoke damage in my apartment. Prayers for Victoria, who is delivering her first child. May she be protected and supported of this process, and may her and her baby be healthy and well. Prayers that I find and receive the caregiving help I need after suddenly losing my caregiving help today. And prayers that I have the health to interview and train new caregivers. Prayers for Asia, who is 1 month old and recovering from a heart defect. Prayers for her health, longevity, good life, and protection from the difficult circumstances around her. Prayers for Dick, who is undergoing treatment for lung cancer. Prayers that I may release scarcity and welcome true abundance. Prayers for my father's journey toward acceptance of his loss of sight. May he find new visions of clarity. Prayers for my mother and her struggle with addiction. Prayers for my students and colleagues as we move toward completion of a very difficult semester. Prayers for all survivors of sex and gender-based violence, and for the protection, healing, and justice for all survivors of Epstein and related networks. May all survivors know healing, protection, love, support, and goodness. Prayers that I'm able to learn from my past mistakes created by me and my ignorance. May I find a way to repair them. May I learn from these mistakes. If I have caused any type of harm, may you forgive me. I ask for protection. May we find a solution which is in the highest and not detrimental to me. Prayers for peace, progress, light, prosperity to all mediums, healers, and medicine people. May we be protected in our work. Prayers for all artists who seek liberation, who create to connect and to bring forth authenticity. May we find courage to create what is needed. May we, in our work, find the people we are destined to serve, inspire, connect. Prayers of gratitude to the benevolent beings supporting my liberation and protecting life. Prayers for all my relations. May we find our way toward the right relationship. Prayers for continued support and protection from dark forces, harm, and interference. Prayers for healing from trauma and for my recovery to begin in full freedom and sovereignty and safety. Prayers that all beings, including us, awaken as quickly as possible. Prayers for our dear teacher, Lama Rod, that he has all he needs to feel nourished and supported. Prayers for patience and realization of emptiness. Prayers for C and L and anyone who is feeling impaired by their mental health or thought patterns. Medicine Buddha, please grant all of our teachers, Lama Rod, Rachel Wood, and Eli, and others a long life, auspicious circumstances, and the support they need to spread the Dharma. Medicine Buddha, please watch over everyone suffering, losing their health insurance, jobs, homes, and livelihoods in our economic crisis, and capitalism's maliciousness. Please help heal fascism and the ignorance, greed, hate fueling it here in the U.S. and abroad. Medicine Buddha, please watch after our queer elders here and passed on, and all those impacted by the HIV epidemic. Please welcome them all into a pure land of love, disco, drag, and delight. Medicine Buddha, please heal the environment and help keep our planet habitable for all life to thrive. Medicine Buddha, please watch after our Sangha and grant us auspicious conditions and unblock our road to healing, enlightenment, and healing and liberating others. Prayers for my mother, Olivia, navigating the loss of my father 3 weeks ago. Prayers for my patients as I care for my loved ones. Prayers for myself that I release hindering and false beliefs. Prayers for my children and their bright light. May I be blessed to help guide and be guided by their infinite wisdom. Prayers for Megan, may she be healed. Prayers for my niece Carol, may she and Rob find peace in their situation. Prayers for my niece Sarah, may her housing situation be resolved quickly. Prayers that all beings who suffer with sickness to find healing and relief. Prayers for my niece G and her mom S, may they find peace and ease. Prayers for myself and my partner as we navigate our changing relationship. Prayers for my body and I to heal. Prayers for the ability to get work and work done. Prayers of abolition and liberation for all. Asheo. Prayers for those who are suffering. May they be at peace. Prayers for those in addiction, Jack and her breakup, and myself in physical pain. Prayers for Molly, the dog next door who lives outside. The temperatures are dropping into the 30s at night. Please pray that she stays safe and warm, and I find a new home for the both of us. Ashe. Prayers for me, prayers for M and R. May they be resourced, healed, and freed. Prayers for Aunt Monica. May she now be free. Prayers for my unhealed ancestor. Prayers for LK on their journey. Prayers for Ciara, who just lost her father. May she find support in her grief, and may he cross over safely. Prayers for MJ's pregnancy. Prayers for my brother, my mother's family, and myself as we move through this intensive service and practice. Prayers to those, pray to do things with confidence and perfection and not perfectionism. Prayers for me to allow myself to be held and supported and open to receive love. Prayers for my Tia A, who is having heart issues. Prayers for my dog Canelo, who has an injured right rear leg. Prayers for my mom, sister, my prayers for my mama, sister, her wife, 3 children navigating healing childhood trauma. Prayer for A, who is taking a break from life to work on her mental health. Prayers for the medicine for my family needs and the family medicine I need. Prayers for Donna, mother of a son murdered in drug culture in July. Prayers for staff working with young girls and the young girls who run away back to their pimps. Prayers for Renee Castellanos and Ernesto. May they each travel in the spirit realm with ease and peace, supported in love in their queerness and joy. Prayers for Ricky Joyner. May he recover sufficiently to enjoy as much of life as long as possible. Prayers for Bill McLaurin, who and his brother Greg, who died of AIDS in the early 90s. For Carolyn Tobin, who entered the Bardo a few weeks ago. Prayers for Joel M's ongoing recovery. Prayers for my own path to find resources to heal neuropathy and anxiety it causes. Prayers for inner peace, trust, and faith for all those people and for all beings everywhere. Prayers that my heart breaks over purpose, that I may be guided through this tender chapter in ways that create healing for me and others. Prayers for the prayers for the perpetrators of violence, that they be freed from the wounds and trauma that are the root of their greed, fear, hatred, anger, and harm to others. May they be restored to humanity and freed of the wounds that cause their dehumanization and results in their dehumanizing others. May everyone that comes in contact with me be given a key to move into their own healing and liberation. May I release all wounds of limiting beliefs that prevent me from accepting romantic love and relationship. Prayers for my sister's recovery from the suffering of alcoholism. Prayers for our brokenheartedness of 2 miscarriages. Prayers for Ember as she prepares to transition from this realm and for her loved ones and caregivers. Prayers for Chaofing Gay, killed in ICE detention in Pennsylvania. Prayers for my father as he recovers from a brain bleed, and for me and my sister should we also have the chromosomal differences that causes this condition. Prayers for my family of origin to be free from delusion as we navigate this change, and prayers for sustainability and connection with the seen and unseen as I caregive in many domains. Prayers for my health and the relationships among my West African drum circle friends, especially help me relate a healthy, loving way to all, even when they don't love back. Heal my relationships with C and R. Prayers for Patricia as she recovers from stroke and heart trouble and learning to walk again. I came to offer prayers for my Aunt Jelaine as she recovers from stroke. I can continue to offer prayers for the transition of Renee's father into the spirit world in Bardo. I continue to pray for the complete abolition of all systems of violence and harm and subjugation that keep many of us from reawakening into our most liberated selves. May we all get free as quickly as possible. May it be so. And we offer these prayers to all the great beings that, again, asking them to work on our behalf to bring about the fruition of all these prayers. And in our practice, may we be shown how to bring about the fruition of these prayers. And may we be offered the resources to do this work as well. May this all be so now. Ashe. And just turning back to our mantra work just for a couple of minutes as we get close to the as we close get closer to the end of our session. And returning back to the mantra. And again, just pouring out, releasing, relying on your entourage, your medicine spirits to support you in the releasing and the healing. And as we move towards the end of this session, beginning to imagine that these beings, these spirits that came with so much suffering are being released from that suffering, and they're able to return back to places where they can continue their healing work and their liberation work as well. So we continue. O te anda begenze begenze a begenze razumunga te soha te anda begenze begenze ma begenze razumunga te soha te anda begenze begenze ma begenze And still arising as Medicine Buddha or the Great Healer, surrounded by our entourage, Continuing to imagine the healing, right? And the evolution of all these spirits from suffering into freedom. I make an offering of water as a final kind of symbol gesture of cleansing, that this water offering, and praying to the spirits, the element of water as well, that this water becomes a force of final cleansing and awakening for all beings needing this healing and this cleansing. I make a food offering as well to these spirits in deep appreciation for your willingness to be healed, to release this cycle of karma and trauma, and to begin to lean forward into what you actually are. May this offering of food, of water, of light be a benefit. And then just the final offering of incense, that the way forward for these spirits is completely cleared through the offering of this incense. And so, having offered these final rituals, we imagine that all these spirits are returning back, or are leaving to continue their work of liberation, returning or moving into the spirit world, or moving into the ancestor realms, where they can become ancestors for some of us, or continuing to evolve into the bodhisattvahood, or preparing to be reborn, or just continuing in the spirit world, learning and practicing and growing. May all these paths be open, and may you continue to do this work with the blessing of Medicine Buddha. Returning our attention to ourselves as Medicine Buddha, we thank our retinue, these medicine spirits and guides, for their support, for their labor. And we imagine that they too begin to return back to the places that they came from. And returning our attention back to ourselves, our form as the great healer, as the expression of Medicine Buddha begins to dissolve once again into the brilliance of this luminosity, leaving only awareness, space, emptiness. As we allow ourselves to rest within this boundless, expansive experience. And so when you're ready, beginning to allow your body to take form again, feeling the density, the weight of your body, feeling the seat rising to hold you, connecting to the earth, feeling the tethering to the earth, feeling the groundedness, the stability that the land offers us. Allowing our bodies to come back into focus, connecting to our breath, beginning to reawaken our bodies through just simple movement, simple gestures. Taking our time in this process, coming back, letting the earth ground and tether us, letting the seat hold you. And when you're ready, we turn our attention to Shantideva's prayer, which you'll find in the chat box, and we'll recite this 3 times. We begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. Okay. Thank you all so much for your practice in this session. I hope it's been deeply beneficial. As Eric pointed out, I will see some of you this weekend in Toronto. And the rest of you hopefully Thursday for Free Radicals as well. Well, I'll probably be yelling at people as usual, but like this kind of how the sessions go. A little bit of ranting, right? To get us back on track. So awesome.